Uh-oh.
We're back! Oh my god!
Yeah.
Yay!
There was supposed to be
Good,
music
yeah.
at the intro scene, but Pretzel Rock wasn't working, so it was just silence at the intro screen. Flawless start to the day.
That's
Welcome back to
fine.
the
No
podcast,
one...
everyone. As you can see, a few changes up here, but today we're going to talk about a myriad of fun things. Twitch changed their new PogChamp. It's now only going to be available, a new one's every 24 hours. MCU is starting Phase 4. Haikyuu Season 4 ended, but Promised Land Season 2 is starting. PlayStation announced their new black version. And Metacritic decided Persona 5 Royale was the best critique game last year. So, welcome on in. I'm
Great.
Grey Wolves.
I need...
Oh,
You've
really?
right-clicked on yourself, and I need it to stop.
I've done what? Huh?
What?
What have I done?
No, it's fine. You fixed it.
Oh, the mouse.
Flawless
You
stream.
right-clicked on yourself. It was showing. I was like, it needs to stop. I can't concentrate.
Hi, I'm Grey Wolves. This is great start.
Yay!
We have
It's
Platinum
our
joining.
professional podcast.
Platinum, introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Platinum. I Platinum Games and do art, and I'm trying to get into coding.
Perfect. Flawless. Blindside.
Hi, I'm Blindside, and I barely finish games, and I just play games. At the moment, I'm playing every Final Fantasy because I like to challenge myself to ridiculous things.
It's true.
Welcome back, everyone.
We
Yay!
did it!
Absolute winners, every one of us.
I know we nailed it. It was a flawless intro. You know, I was nervous at start with the 18 mistakes I made on my end, but like we plowed right through it.
I like you keeping a tally. Just like, uh-huh.
Have you seen Community where they're, not Community, yeah, Community, where they're like doing the notches in the
Yes. And
that's what I picture Wolves doing.
and what's his name just has his category is notches, and he just adds it.
Notches, and he just keeps making them.
Oh, I love that scene. It's such a good scene. Oh.
Yeah.
All right. So, what do people think about the myriad of things we'll start there. Any thoughts on any of the first stuff?
So I'm really upset that I haven't watched Haiku yet.
Oh,
I know, and I want to really bad. I started rewatching the show with Sneaky because he had never seen it.
okay.
And so I started rewatching it with him, and then because like our like lives just happened, so we haven't hung out in like a really long time.
Okay.
And so now I'm kind of like, do I just watch the last season or do I wait?
You
So,
watched
yeah.
the last season. You can watch it again. You're watching the
That's
first
what
several
I'm-
seasons again.
I know, I guess. But like now I'm like stuck in the past because so now I don't remember like what happens in between. And it was funny because I went on Crunchyroll and I was like, I'm pretty sure the new season is out. But I couldn't remember like where I ended and like where the new episodes began. So I was
Okay.
like trying to like skim the descriptions without reading them because they're spoilers. So I was like,
Does-
it was a
does-
process.
Does Crunchyroll not separate it into like seasons?
Well, I could have sworn that it like started the season 3 or season 4 or whatever we're on, and then this is like the second half of season 4. So I think it's somewhere like in the middle of the season. Because I
Gotcha.
remember them going to like camp and like learning,
hmm
and then it kind of like stopped before their like second game.
Yeah.
And so I'm pretty sure like that is like the second half of whatever season we're on. And so then I'm like trying to find the episode where
I mean, I can find where the episode gap is because
Ooh, that'd be great.
what I use separates those into separate like categories.
Oh, that's nice.
So like it's not just like season 4. It's just like season
Yeah.
whatever, season this, and like so I
And
just
then they also have like the movie versions of story arcs, which is really
Mhm.
frustrating because
Yeah.
I thought it was all new stuff, and they were like, "No, it's just repeating," and I'm like, "You bitch!
Yep.
I've seen that. Why'd you have to tease me with new content?"
Yeah, it's a thing. I usually don't like movies within an anime because it's either just shortening up a season or it's just new unrelated content. So
Yeah, that's the way it is for My Hero, right? It seems like unrelated.
yeah, theirs was
Um,
a jump forward in time too.
Oh wow! And then Demon Souls, which is the movie I am looking forward to because it is continuing.
Demon Slayer.
Yeah, or what did I say? Demon
Souls.
Souls.
I was like, I got confused for a second. I was like, they're making a Demon Souls movie. That was
Yeah, I
like,
was like,
she,
that's
she
not-
probably means Demon Slayer
I do. I'm an idiot. Yeah, Demon Slayer.
because that's actually that's season 2.
Because that's
Yeah.
season 2, which goes to your shortening up a season. But I feel like in this case, it might be beneficial.
Yeah,
instead
that
of like elongating.
yeah, because they're not going to release an episodic version at all. It's this they just decided to do season 2 as a movie as
Yeah.
opposed to like Haiku, which has like a season whatever, and then they make a movie of it as well. And it's like, okay,
Yeah,
now
they like just make like that story arc a movie, which would be nice because then you're
Mhm.
not like I wish I knew they existed before I watched this season because like once I got to that arc, I wish I would have just watched the movie
yeah.
and then jumped back, but
Mhm.
they don't like tell you, so you're like okay. I guess it makes rewatches better. I don't know.
But I feel like you're very quiet on the anime front, Blindside. What do you?
I've really been doing anime recently, and I saw like Haiku. I remember us talking about it like a long time ago, and I was like, "Oh yeah, it sounds really interesting." Never watched it, never touched it.
Wow,
Because
can we kick him off the podcast?
I can make him smaller
been-
real quick. There you
Yeah,
go, Platt. You're the
that's
focus
pretty-
now.
pretty weak on the anime
He's-
front.
We don't care what he has to.
This is fine. Just put me in the corner. It's all right.
Can we need a scene with like a timeout corner. Put someone there.
I'll work on that. I'll make.
I like that a lot. Listen, you're in timeout, and then we can have them like wear like
Go
a
and watch
sunset,
Haiku
like, on the,
when you
on the border.
finished.
Platt and I are gonna sit here and wait while you watch all of IQ. We're just.
Go ahead, we'll wait. But yeah, that was quick. We talked about anime. What was the other things you had?
Promised Neverland season 2 just started.
Oh.
hmm
Okay,
The first episode's out.
So
So,
I want to
good.
watch that. I'm catching up on My Hero finally.
Okay, nice. Now that
Yeah.
the next season starts in like May or something like that.
You know, that was just timing. Honestly, like what season are we on right now? Like 4?
I don't know.
Whatever. The most recently,
Yeah.
like latest season. Kind of came out the same time that Demon Slayer came out. I almost said Demon Souls again. Like where like I watched that whole season, and like when I watched Demon Slayer and then like went back to My Hero to rewatch it with Michael, I was like, Demon Slayer is way better. And I kind of like lost interest by the time we got to season 4. So I'm like finally getting back into it and being like, okay, well, what happened? Because I am interested in these characters.
Okay,
But yeah.
that's good.
See, My Hero is actually something that I have watched, so I think I'm up to date with My
Mhm.
Hero.
Okay.
I
Yeah,
enjoyed it a
I
lot.
just got to the part, like, they saved the girl with the horn, which was great.
Yeah.
And so I kind of got, like, that whole arc done. And
I
it
mean,
seems
then
like
you're
they're just
caught
gonna
up.
create, like, a music band.
Oh yeah, that's like the outro to the season. Like there's
But, like,
more
fun
does
part
It's so
happen.
weird because it's like, oh, here's like all this hero stuff, and then they're like, let's make a band, and I was like, what?
Yeah, even the intro, I was like, oh, I'm not going to care about this season.
like a post-credit scene for anime. They were like, season's done, but we have like 2 more episodes to do. And they're like,
Yeah, that
festival?
takes, like, half the season.
Yeah, because that's what happens in the manga. Like you break up like the action scenes with like because they're in school. Like they have those like schooly moments, and one of them is like this like talent show and stuff like that. And like what's our talent? Like let's do a band. So they kind of just like, all right, well it's in the manga, so we'll animate it.
Yeah, I don't mind it because
Yeah.
it is kind of like a sense of like relief that you can, because it gets so tense that you're just like, oh, I'm so glad we can just kind of like relax for a second. And I think that is somewhat true to life,
Mhm.
that you get these like crazy intense moments and then you get like some brevity. But
I mean, it works like a very easy transition into Persona 5 because like with Persona 5, you do like the big palace adventure stuff, like very like high octane, and then it's like it's exam season, and it's just like we're school kids, and then like
with school
I think
kids.
with school kids we gotta go, and it's a dating sim and time management and also a video game. It's all very confusing.
Yeah, like as much as I love certain aspects of the Persona series, like that aspect is once you're just doing the mundane day-to-day school stuff, my brain's just like I don't like. Part of me wants to like just really quickly skip past those things and just like do the major moments, but then it's like, oh, well, then you miss all these dialogues. You can't make this person your friend. You can't do this. You can't. I'm like, there's so
I was gonna
much.
say that sounds like the character moments in between the action stuff.
I mean, it is, but it's just so much.
I kind of love it, but I'm very much
You
like,
and most people. Again, the most
Yeah,
critically
yeah,
acclaimed
like,
game
what
last
you
year.
do.
Wolves is the one in the dumb's corner right now.
I like it.
Yeah, I'm playing through Royal at the moment, just like in Discord with
Mm.
so some of my community have been like tuning in. We've been playing through that because it's been like a year since I played Persona 5 on stream. I caught the Rona. I had 2 weeks where I didn't have to go to work, and I streamed Persona like every day for 2 weeks. Absolutely at the time not knowing that they were releasing Royal, and then getting a copy of Royal that I ended up having to play both of them at the same time, which was very interesting.
See, you said this thing had to, and I want to just key in on that because, like, you didn't.
Oh, I did, because I'd signed an agreement with Sega that they said on the release day you need to release a video of X amount of length that's on the changes in Royal. So I had
Gotcha.
to play both of them at the same
Okay,
time.
fair enough.
I had
Wait,
zero
what?
choice. Sega reached out to
Were
me,
you
Clan.
sponsored by Sega?
I wasn't
I knew-
sponsored.
you
They
didn't
gave-
know-
They gave me a copy, and they were like, because
I-
I think it was 'cause
you
at the
tweeted
time I was
about
at
it.
the top of the, I was at the top of the
Oh, I
Persona 5
missed that.
like Twitch
Yeah.
stuff for like a good patch, and it was like a PR company with Sega were like, oh yeah, we're working with Sega, they've asked us to reach out, here's a copy of the game, here is an excessive amount of contracts and an NDA and this, and like here's what we expect from it. It was extensive, and I'd never entered any form of
Oh,
like
I do
agreement with the
vaguely
company
remember you
before.
talking about it.
Yeah.
Like I'd had NDAs before, because obviously like if you get like a games, but a lot of the time they're just like, oh, it's not like a signed NDA, it's just oh, what do they call it when you can't show anything, but it's not an NDA, it's there's like a threshold time, there's a name for it.
Like a
I can't
moratorium
remember.
kind of thing?
Oh,
I was under
Like,
I was under
an
another one recently,
embargo?
actually. That's the one, yeah. So they were most things I'd done, they'd been like, oh, the embargo's here, but this
Mhm.
was like you sign a contract, and they're like, if you show the wrong parts of the game, or if you show beyond a certain point, or show too much of it, like that is a breach of your contract. And they're like, that's a serious thing. And I was like, and Sega have the money
go
to do
jail.
that. Well, I was like, Sega have enough money to be like, cool, he showed too much of the game, and we made less money than we thought we should. That's a loss of earnings. And I was like, I'm gonna follow these rules. Maybe.
That's amazing, though. That's so cool.
Yeah, it was good times. But I was playing Persona 5 on stream, and then I was playing Royal off stream under an NDA, which then one of my mods got in touch with me and was like, you are aware I can see when you're playing games on your PlayStation? And I was like, that's fine, appear offline. But
That's so
yeah,
cool.
just because obviously it's such a long game as well, so I wanted to take some time to forget bits and not do it all the way.
See,
but then kind of back into it.
I'd be terrified if that ever if that ever got in that situation, because I have zero like video editing experience, just none. I have no software on my computer that can do it. I got nada. So like, you want to like do this and like make a short video of it? I'm like, I would love to be able to, but it's like, but no.
Yeah. I feel like I can't, literally.
I mean, I think that was like the third or fourth like
Yeah.
edited scripted video I'd ever made.
Mine would have
But,
all
like-
like the '90s cheesy like swipe cuts and like fading out, and, like.
Just lean into it. Make
Mine
it,
was
like,
mine
Jimmy
was
Star
just
Wars.
jump cuts. It was just like video game footage in the back, me talking about stuff. The footage just kind of looks like it. Strip the audio out, put in game music, because
Yeah.
then I can't be copyrighted, because the only people that would copyright me made me make the video. So I was like, no.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was like
You have
it was
permission.
yeah, and just
That's so exciting.
See, I would just
Yeah,
do
it
like
was
the
fun
Wayne's
times.
World edit. Every time I edit, there'd be a little me in the bottom corner going like this, as it just like that fade. On to the next scene. Ooh.
Ooh.
Oh man.
That's awesome. That's so cool.
So, speaking real quick then on that topic, what do you guys? I don't want to go too long, but what's your favorite games of last year then? So again, Persona Royale was the #1 across all consoles of games critiqued last year. So what would you guys put as yours? I'm putting you on the spot. I in no way prepped you guys for this question.
Yeah, no, it's Last of Us Part 2. It was probably my favorite game of last year.
Okay.
So I realized whilst I was watching the Video Game
Controversial.
Awards that over last year I played maybe 3 games that were actually released last year.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I
I
think
didn't-
my game
yeah.
of the year was probably Final Fantasy VII Remake, just because I was like excessively hyped about it for
Yeah.
a very long time, and it, in my eyes at least, it definitely met expectations. So
Okay.
I for my
Same reasons, different game.
basically, yeah.
Yeah, I haven't actually played a terribly large number of like major games this year. Like right now, my friends and I are all playing Conan, just because we want to just do a Survivor Craft game and just like screw around and stuff like that. But like,
Yeah.
probably Ghost of Tsushima is probably the one of the top games I played this year.
I still haven't
Yeah, I was
played
trying
it.
to even think of like the other games that were up for it because I was like, I know there was another one that was like a really close second,
Yeah.
but I couldn't remember what it was. I mean, like Miles Morales was fun, but
Mhm.
I don't think that's like game of the year material. I think
I think
like for
there's-
me, a game needs to be more than just fun to play
Yeah.
to be game of the year. And even though that is probably the most fun game that I played of 2020, it's not like game of the year.
See, I still haven't even played Last of Us Part 2. So again,
Yeah,
these
a
aren't
lot
these
of
aren't
people
like
have.
games of the year. These are just the highest critiqued. So like in PC, the top three were Half-Life, Alex, Hades, and Flight Simulator. For PlayStation, it was Persona 5 Royale, Last of Us Part 2, and Dragon Quest XI S Echoes of an Exclusive Age Definitive Edition.
What
Which
does highest critiqued mean?
just people like rated like, oh, I get this game 9 out of 10, 95 out of this, like across all
Oh,
like the
wow.
people rating the games.
So it could be bad reviews, but they got the most critiques.
Well, no, that's good reviews because they were rated
Oh,
highly.
okay. Gotcha.
Switch was Hades, Ori, Will of the Wisp, and Animal Crossing was third. Then Xbox was Dragon Quest, Fi 2020. I don't know if that's supposed to be FIFA, F1 2020. I don't know. And then Ori as well.
Oh. Okay.
So those were like the top like
I think
critique
it was.
games.
It was like a really interesting thing of because like Animal Crossing's got like put forward for a lot of awards and stuff.
Hmm.
But I'm personally, and I'll try because I played Animal Crossing. It was really fun, but like I fell off of it quite quickly. But I think if it wasn't for the fact the entire world was shut down, kind of like an abstract Second Life game would never have been nominated for as much stuff as Animal Crossing was.
Yeah, it was
I
like a
think
good
it's still
time.
important to nominate stuff like that because it did come at like the most pinnacle time for people, and I think it's important to be like, thank you for doing that.
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, that's a lot of
'Cause
reviews.
It was a good game.
I mean, that's not uncommon at all anyway. Just like if something comes out at the right moment, it just hits the world the right way and it gets all these things. Like that's what.
Among Us that came out 3 years ago and yet is nominated this year for best game.
Yeah, like the game they were about to scrap and try to work on Among Us 2. And then they scrapped Among Us 2 to
It was
finish
just
work.
timing, baby.
So
Wasn't
that
it like entirely streamers as well? Like it was basically streamers resurrected Among Us.
Mhm.
Like nothing else
Okay.
happened.
No.
It's not like they brought out a big update. It wasn't like a No Man's Sky thing where they're like, right, we fixed it. It was just like some streamers
Allegedly,
went.
they did come
"You guys
out
wanna
with some
murder each
stuff
other?"
to like quality of life stuff, but
But yeah, like it was just a couple of streamers like Grand Pooh Bear, Shroud, and any number of streamers just like casually played it one day, like over a
Yeah.
couple of days, and it just exploded.
yeah.
So
Yeah, absolute hype through the roof. But that was another one. Like I played like 2 or 3 games of it with people, and then just kind of went, "Yeah, I'm done.
yeah,
I'm done with this." But I
I
mean,
don't
I
think
like
that
my
game-
narrative single player games, so
Yeah. I was gonna say I don't think that game thrives on multiplayer, even though it seemed like it. It's much more of a single player adventure.
hmm No, agreed. I'm with you on that one.
Yeah.
So, I was gonna say something and then I forgot. Oh, Platinum! In my adventures to always recommend amazing shows that you need to watch with a flawless record. Since I'm fairly confident you probably still haven't watched Madoka Magical Girl. Have you ever watched Schitt's Creek?
Oh, we were starting it. It's been enjoyable. I don't think it's over the top amazing though, but I feel like I just need to get to like season 2 or season 3 when they like really know their characters, because
Yeah.
that's when comedies really get good.
Yeah, no, it. My wife and I just finished that, and like I absolutely love that show.
Like the son makes me laugh out loud like every season, like every episode. I mean,
It's just all of
Even
his
if the
facial
episode's not
features
that
and stuff
great.
like that. Like,
he's great.
yeah. But like without like plot spoilers or anything like that, one of the things, especially as the show goes on, that I absolutely love is like their characters are definitely products of the environment they came from. So they're not always the most lovable characters, but that's fine. Like it's part of the show. But like where a lot of comedy shows do sometimes is like a really like bad or awkward situation will come up, and like either it's the fault of the main characters or they're just involved. The main character will get themselves further involved, make it worse, and then that episode's over and they never touch on it again.
Yeah.
And like that is not the case in this show. Like whenever, even if it's their fault and something like that, it gets to the point where like sometimes the character's like, I'm gonna help and make this better, and they legitimately try to help and make it better, and more often than not, they do. And I very much appreciated that in the show. Like they didn't just like screw up a random written in character's life and then boot him out of the episode and you never saw him again. You're like, they just what? Like I very much appreciated that whenever it happened.
Oh, that's cool.
So
I'll have to keep an eye out.
you know, I absolutely loved the show. Like I said, first season it was similar to like the first seasons of, like Parks and Rec. The characters have their personas and they're that, and you're like, but like they begin to. So
Yeah,
good.
it's when that show got like so many flippin' awards that I went, because I've always heard about it,
Mm-hmm.
but like when I'm assuming they're done or something. 'Cause
Yeah.
they got like
6
so
seasons.
many awards.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. Because like, literally, I was like looking at Twitter and somebody was like, "Is Schitt's Creek really this funny?" Because they've gotten like every award, and I was like thinking the same thing. So we started watching it, and then. We took a break to watch the last season of Letterkenny.
Okay. Yeah, no, it
I wish I could get Letterkenny in England. You can't, and it's a damn shame.
Oh, it's
Because
so
like, I got introduced to it from like the YouTube, like they were doing all the cold opens, and it's just like that. It has me in stitches. But like even from highlights, you know, like it just seems to be consistently funny, like all the time.
I mean, if someone like NordVPN wanted to sponsor us, I could tell you how you could watch this show from in England, but like I got nothing, no idea. It's just
I need to
impossible.
invest in a VPN. I legitimately do, because there's so many
we
things.
literally
that,
just did.
No, I've actually had one for a while, mostly to watch certain like British sitcoms or British panel shows. Like that's like 90% of the reason I have it was for that.
Speaking of British panel shows,
I haven't watched it yet.
Oh, we have the
As the only Brit in the room, how have you not watched?
Well, because I'm living it. I had a year in England. I don't need to catch up.
Fair enough.
Which I was really shocked. It was really interesting because on the Big Fat Quiz Show, they had people 6 feet apart, but they had a studio audience, or at least seemingly. I'm not sure if it's true.
I doubt they did.
Okay, because they had a laugh track.
Yeah.
It didn't seem like normal, but I was like, well, maybe they do. And then I went to 8 out of 10 Cats Does Countdown, in their like Christmas one. And they definitely had a studio audience, and people were right next to each other. And I was like, isn't UK doing the worst? Why are they doing this?
It could have been when they filmed it. It could have been that awkward time where lift downs were like, because I know Mock the Week right now, like they like as the season's going on, all of a sudden like, well, we have an audience right now that are kind of distance, but next week we're not going to have any audience at all because the restrictions are being put back up. So we'll just have a Zoom audience. So like there is an audience that's clapping and paying attention, but like I don't.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
it was
really with it
interesting.
because like just get households. Because surely if you want to make an audience, you just make like so you get like 6 people that live together or in a support bubble. I mean, our bubble system makes no sense anyway.
No.
Because I don't know how you guys are doing it. So we have bubbles.
Okay.
And basically the rules are arbitrary and loosely phrased to be as confusing as humanly possible. But you can have like a family bubble, a childcare bubble, a support bubble, and then a workplace bubble. But the workplace bubble only functions in the workplace. But then like you have all of these. So actually everyone's spending time with about 20 other people who are all spending time with like 20 other people.
20 other people.
So
Okay.
it means nothing. Everything means
Okay.
nothing. It's all made up.
Yeah.
It's just
I mean, we don't have the bubble thing. We just have like 6 feet unless you like know them. Like it's just it's like
unless you've met them once.
it's
Yeah, we have like where they just don't want you to get in groups of over like 6 people or something. And
Yeah.
then during the holidays, they were like, don't meet with your, which everyone did.
I didn't.
We did. Coming up to Christmas,
did.
they were like, over Christmas, we're just going to relax everything. Like, no rules. You're not going to follow them anyway. And then everyone went, well, no, you can't just get rid of rules for Christmas. And then they went, fine, we'll put rules in for Christmas, and no one will follow them. So they put the rules back in, and then no one followed them. It was just,
Yeah.
okay. Like,
Yeah, honestly, the only reason we did go with our families over the holidays is because we've been visiting them this whole time. Like, so, because, like, talk about your bubbles, like, we only visit my family and his family, and then all my friends are online. So.
Yeah. Now, for me, I mean, I work at a bank. Like, we've never shut down because federal laws, we can't. Like, we had a point where we were trying to do like weird shifts and stuff like that, but otherwise we've just been normal for a long while. So like, I'm always at work. I'm always interacting with people and stuff like that. So like, I tried really hard not to interact with most people when I'm not at work. The only people I interact at all on a regular basis are two friends of ours that live close, and they're both work from home, and they don't have family in the area. So they're not interacting with anyone but us, and they know I'm the risk. Like, if anyone's going to bring a problem into this circle of four, my wife and them two and like, it's me.
Yeah.
And so, like,
Definitely.
but that's what, like, for Christmas, we hung out with them. For New Year's, we hung out with them. Like, my wife and I didn't go anywhere for family or anything like that.
Yeah, that's
So.
nice.
Yay, lockdown.
I'm the risk in mine because so in my housemates don't go anywhere. They're either work from home or they're furloughed. So and I work in a hospital, so I'm where all the sick people are. But I'm in a bit of the sick people. I'm in a bit where the sick people aren't, and we have to do what we call lateral flow testing. So like every 3 days, I have to do a test that I get instant results for. So like I do it, and you just like do swabs, and then you put it in a thing, and it looks a bit like a pregnancy test. And it's like, if there's lines, go get an actual test. So I'm like the risk, but at the same time, I have to be tested like all the time.
Right.
So I'm the risk, but only if I was risking anyone, I would know that I was risking them. So it's very strange.
Yeah. Have you gotten the vaccine yet?
No. So I am on a ward where there are patients, but we test every patient that comes into the ward I'm on, and also because I'm an administrator, like we're in an office that basically is like you just lock all the doors. Like you get into the office, we fill everyone in the office, and then we lock all the doors, and then it's like, cool, now it doesn't count. But we have to wander around the whole unit almost constantly.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, like that's part of our job. But
I just figured you would be frontline, and therefore you would be one of the first phase to get vaccines.
I will be ahead of other people, but obviously, like, I'm quite far back on it anyway because, like, I'm young and healthy, so I'm not like pushed forward with that. I work for the NHS, which does like push me ahead in the queue a little bit, but I'm an administrator who is in a low risk ward, so it's stuff like because we have wards that are just COVID patients, so like people working in there is like now.
Yeah.
And then it's like the people that work with those people. Yeah, like because it's public sector, like there's so much bureaucracy anyway. So there's like 700 people who probably all got an office together, like a meter away from each other, breathing all each other. And they were like, well, how are we going to vaccinate people? And they were like, probably them first. But yeah, so there's hundreds of meetings of lots of everything. They've come up with a priority system. I'm not at the top of it. But
yeah, I have no idea
at the moment is they get like leftover vaccine. So they'll be like, oh, yeah, we've got like some extra doses that didn't get used today, and it will just go in the bin if we don't just like jab people with it. Does anyone want to come down and just grab it? Which is so weird to me. It's just like leftovers before anyone goes. Can I doggy bag this vaccine for you?
It's just like we took apart a bunch of old computers. We have some extra keyboards and mice if you want to come grab them. It's like, oh, we have some extra vaccines if you want to just come, like, whatever.
Do you want to just pop down? No appointments? We won't keep track of anything? I'm like, nah, you're all right. You're fine.
Oh, man. I have no...
Too. Like, that seems really odd.
Yeah,
because I think the one they're using at the moment is like you have the first one and then you can have the second one. It's like 12 weeks later, and I think they're just working on the basis that if your timer hits that point, they'll just quickly like run in, just like and it'll be fine.
They like tackle you in the middle.
It's like as you're walking in through the revolving door, they just like someone walks in behind you like.
There's someone at a computer, like on a mic, being like, "It'll be exactly 12 weeks and 10 minutes. Find him, find him, find him." It was a countdown. I was like, ah.
He's like, got the target.
Problem solved.
We got him, boys. Mission complete.
All right. So, main topic of the week: Random topic change. Whew. So, choice in video games. So, I started to think about this with the lawsuit currently occurring with Cyberpunk. So, there's a big lawsuit because they promised their investors the game would have certain things, and supposedly, these promises were kept all the way up to game launch, and then those things weren't in it. So, this is what the general lawsuit is. You said these things were going to be in it, and you kept saying that up until this date, and then they weren't. I have no idea if this is true. There's a current pending lawsuit. I'm not saying anything is specifically true. I'm just stating the allegations, dear internet. So, with that in mind, one of the things was there was a claim that your player choice would affect the story and do all these other things, and people were saying it doesn't. Like, there are times where you can do that, but like not nearly to the scale that you want. So it started to make me think about, is the effort of doing that in a video game actually worth it? Like, is that a promise that you should care to make? Does that, and because like if you release a video game, like, hey, we released a video game, people are like, cool, I'm excited for this video game. But if like you have player choice, like suddenly it's like the front of your marketing. We allow player choice. It affects this, and like that instantly makes the game better. So I just want to talk with you guys about, like, does it? Like, do you think it inherently can make it better? Do you think it inherently make it, well, like, just blah, go.
I'll go.
All right.
So, because and I'm not gonna try to cop out with, well, it depends.
Yeah.
You know, I'm trying to not do that. However, it depends. No, I'm joking. Like, it, in the fact that if a game just has choice just for choice's sake, then it's kind of stupid.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, like the Telltale games have choice, but then it really doesn't matter. Like, the only point those games have choice is so that way you feel involved and that way you get connected to the characters. And you feel like the pain of choice because they're dealing with, like, well, at least the Walking Dead series, you feel the pain of, like, I only have 3 items of food and I have 8 starving people. Who do I give this to? Like, that's one of the missions, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And so definitely, like, they have that choice in there so that way you feel connected to the characters. Like, if you just saw that play out, you'd be like, oh man, that sucks. But when it's you choosing who gets food, you're like,
Yeah.
People could die because of me, you know? And so it gives, like, that much more weight to it. And especially when you have the argument of, but it doesn't change the end, which in those games there really is, like, there's really one ultimate choice that you either end with this or you end with that.
Yeah.
You know, kind of thing. I guess my point is, like, you just can't have choice for choice's sake. It needs to, like, mean something back to what your game is trying to say.
Yeah.
And that kind of goes back to, like, Spider-Man being a fun game versus, like, another game trying to tell you something or dive deep into, like, a subject. I like when games have the choice and it goes back to, like, what they're trying to say.
Okay.
So I do like choice in games, but I almost when there's choice in games, I almost never go, oh, well, this doesn't mean anything because, you know, the end is still the same, so it's an illusion of choice. You know, kind of thing. I'm like, yeah, but it still matters at the time when you're choosing. It's like life. Like, we all die, but, like, our events that we are living still matter. You know what I mean?
Wow, harsh truth from Platinum. In case you guys weren't aware.
First, baby, we get hot takes.
I love the idea. You heard it here first. One day we all die. I've heard it maybe a couple of times.
Okay, yeah, but you work in a hospital.
Shocking revelation.
Yeah, but no, you work in a hospital. You're a unique case. You would hear it more often than other people. Like,
yes, absolutely.
Do you have any thoughts on it?
Yeah, I think it definitely. I think one of the things that really holds back some of the Telltale games is because they're episodic.
Mm.
So if you're going to make 6 games, then your choice in the first game either have to carry over to the second game, which means your second game is now this massive branching thing already, or you have to do what almost all of them do, where, like, you start here and you end here, and then it's like either you can take this way around or you can go straight across, or you can do a little bit of this.
Sure.
Which is, like, a lot of people complain about that, but, like, that's gonna happen in episodic games. I think some games do it really well, like the Dark Pictures anthologies. I thought were really good because because it is a single self-contained experience,
Mhm.
like there is multiple endings. Because you can make it so it's like, well, you got to the end and actually you really ballsed everything up, which means everything's completely gone to shit. Because if you do that in The Walking Dead, where it's like episode 1, everything went complete to shit, episode 2 starts, either we just start with what we were going to start with anyway, which means your episode 1 means nothing,
Mhm.
or to make it so that you can start episode 2 in like 6 different positions, like knowing all of the stuff. Which I think Mass Effect was one of the really, really big letdowns. Because Mass Effect did a lot of like, oh, well, we put loads of choices in, like you can choose, and it was like, do you have access to this character later on, or you choose between like this thing or this thing?
Mhm.
And they did 3 games of it that actually went pretty well, I think, for the choices. And then it got to Mass Effect 3, and they went, get to the end of this thing, and then walk left or walk right. And like realistically, every other choice meant nothing for
No.
3 games. And they were like, do you kill everything or do you save everything? There you go, you're done, bye. And then that was it. And
Yeah.
people, I remember people being so angry at the end of Mass Effect 3.
I was
Which
one of
at
those
least, like,
people.
did something. But yeah, I think it's definitely something you can do, and it can work. But I think it's very high risk, high reward.
Yeah.
Well,
If you
and
do
it's
it well.
really freaking hard to make a game that's truly full of choice. Like that is
Exactly.
so hard to develop and code and record.
Especially games
and...
nowadays. You got to animate everything. You got to have
Yeah.
cutscenes for everything, voice acting for everything. Like,
Yeah.
it's too big a scope. I'd rather have a game where they go like, here's your narrative, and like, yeah, you can kind of like, one of the things I really love with The Witcher is it gives you a real feeling of like, your Geralt being your Geralt. You can like make
Mhm.
decisions for him. The world around you is exactly the same, and there's like small things that change to do with the story, but ultimately, like, it's the same ending.
Mhm.
But like, you can go through it being like, well, this is my character, and this is how he reacts to this, and this is how he does these things. So I like that as like a choice. Like, let me have my character be who I want them to be,
Mhm.
and then the world is just like, well, it's a tough break. Like, that's the way the world is.
Yeah.
So
You know, I agree with the most part. So back to Mass Effect real quick. So I'm gonna use Mass Effect and Witcher as well as examples since they were brought up. So Mass Effect 2 for me is one of the games of the epitome of choice. Because in Mass Effect 2, depending on the decisions you make when you get to the end of the game, the characters can die and you can lose. Just period. Just lost. Game over. Start over or go to the save file and start again because you made just the worst decisions and you've lost. Now, I understand a lot of people might not like that because, like, no, I just played all these hours in the game and now I didn't, like, so not everyone likes that idea, and I get that. But if you want to have choice, like, I feel like you either need to go to, like, that kind of extreme or you need to do something more along like Witcher 3 where the main storyline has some choices, but it's all of the side quests really have choices. And like, you might piss someone off in a side quest in Witcher 3 and it's like, well, that person's just mad at me, or this person's now alive and not this person. Like, the side quests in the world, like, you can affect the world with your choices, even if the main storyline has some choice, but mostly meanders in the same direction. And that's fine, but like, to me, you kind of need to commit to one of the other. Where like when Mass Effect 3 came out, like you're saying, like, you kind of have to have a common starting point. Like, it's hard to like have 12 branching paths and like as the game goes on. But like, feel like, oh yeah, you get choice. Like, oh cool, like I made this decision and this character needed to die, and then just random Muko 2 is now just in that position and nothing else changes. Like, I can understand you want to get to the same point, but like you're making decisions that only affect a cutscene, and that is it. There's no other impact. Is it Mordant who climbs up the tower and sings the song and kills himself, or is it a different person? And like, it almost robs you of the feelings of those choices when it doesn't impact anything. Just that one cutscene, and then it's just hunky dory. Everything's normal. You meet Steve, and now Steve does it instead.
Yeah.
So those are my problems with choice. So I feel like when games like, oh, we're introducing these choice, now our game's better. It's like, no, like it doesn't do that for me. Like, you need to really commit to players can drastically affect the outcome, and some people might be upset with their outcome, but that was you allowing them to make those decisions. or you need to have a mostly meandering storyline. And you can have all these side quests with massive choices and like, oh, I pissed off this one person. Now if I go into this section of a city, they're going to attack me. Where someone's like, really? You did that? I did this, that, and the other thing. And they love me over there. You're like, oh man, I didn't realize, like, that's fine to me because then it also gets dialogue talking between games.
Yeah.
So.
That's so interesting that you both really liked how choice was handled in Witcher 3, and yet Cyberpunk, made by the same company, is getting such slack for their choices.
Well, like, I'm not far enough into that game to really critique the choices they do.
Yeah.
From what I've seen, like, you can... Very, very slight spoilers because I'm like 2 hours into the game. So if you haven't played it, it's not really spoilers. But, like, you can pick one of 3 clans.
Probably in the trailer.
You pick one of 3 clans to start as, and like you get certain dialogue options, and depending on what clan you started with, it'll affect those dialogue options and might kind of affect that quest line, but overall nothing else changes from what I hear. So it's just like...
I do hear that there are multiple endings in the way that Witcher 3 does have multiple endings.
Okay.
But I don't know how many there are. Like, I don't know if there's 3. I don't know if there's 9.
Yeah,
I don't know if there's 1,000. I doubt it, considering the rest of the game.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, I don't know either, but it was just the catalyst because of the lawsuit that made me want to think about this.
Yeah, for sure. No, I think it's a really good topic. The game that comes to mind when choice is brought up, especially I think done well, was Detroit Become Human.
Mm-hmm.
Because talk about thousands of different endings. There was like thousands of different endings.
Yeah.
And that was one where it's like, if you made a bad choice early on, that character could literally be dead for the rest of the game.
Yeah.
And I thought that was and you're like, but how does it, so what, kind of thing, like, and how they work it out, like, from the game dev side is, you're controlling multiple people at one time. So you can have a character die and they're just, like, not in the story anymore. And then you just control the rest of them, kind of thing. And so it gets that high impact of your choices.
Mm-hmm.
I'm learning that games like to put in choice because it's a shortcut for you really feeling for the characters.
Yeah, and if you're doing that, I don't necessarily have, like, a major objection. But, like, personally, my problem starts to delve from, like, well, don't make that, like, a main advertising point. Because it's not. Like, that's just the story. Like, you're not... Choice to me needs to drastically affect some aspect of the story for it to be worthy to advertise.
Yeah.
Like, do you guys ever play the Infamous series?
Definitely sold that.
You guys ever...
Like, literally their trailer was like, choice.
Yeah. But have you guys ever played the Infamous series where you play Cole who, like, gets, like, lightning powers?
I think I played... There was, like, a spin-off where you play as a girl with, like...
Like the...
With, like she absorbs neon lights and stuff.
Yeah.
That's one of the Infamous games,
Yeah.
isn't it? I played a bit of that one.
So,
but that's it.
Infamous 2 had a really good choice that occurred in the game. So in the game, most things are straightforward. Are you going the good path or are you going the evil path? And, like, there's not really a lot of choice in terms of, like, the story elements because you're helping both the evil and the good people story things. But as you're doing it, are you killing civilians? Are you not? Like, that's really all your choices. How murderous are you being in these scenarios? Are you capturing people, killing? Which is all fine and good. But then you get to, like, right before, like, the finals scene, not scene, but what's the word I'm looking for? Final act. Thank you. Right before you get to the final act of the game. Yes, I thanked myself for remembering that.
Yeah.
So you get right before the final act, that's where the culmination of your actions can really matter. Okay, are you going to side with this person and complete the final mission as a good person, or are you going to complete the final mission as an evil person? And the only reason I loved this part of the game is you have someone who's been with you all through Game 1 and all through Game 2, and if you're about to go the evil path, he pulls a gun on you, and you as the player need to zap him several times to kill him, and it is painful because he's the comic relief. He's been your friend. He's been by you. He's been helping you the whole time. in game 1 and game 2 if you're evil, and he's just like, Cole, like, he's like, I can't, like, that's wrong. I can't let you do this. Like, he pulls a gun, you gotta hit like R trigger, and you zap him, he goes to the ground, and you're like, dude, stop, like, come on. He's like reaching for the gun, you gotta like zap him again, like, he's like, dude, stop. He's like, I can't let you do this. It's the wrong, and like, that was a very impactful thing. And like after that, then the game goes on with the ending it wanted, but that moment felt impactful. It felt very, and again, it's the 3/4 part. It's right before the final act, but like, oh, it hit me hard. And I was like, stop! I don't know.
I can't believe you went the evil part. I mean, can't you change your mind halfway through?
Right before that, you can actually make a decision.
Okay.
Like, and that was the thing. Like, there's most of the game, it's a false sense of choice. You really don't decide till that very moment. Am I going to be good? Am I going to be evil? And stuff like that. But like, you immediately has an impact of that decision. It immediately is like, really good.
Oh man.
I feel like because Far Cry 3 did a very similar thing, where like effectively there was 2 endings, but it was like you play through the whole game, and then you basically pick the last one I can't remember the name of, or you basically like pick to side with your friends, which is like, but it felt so jarring to me because like your character's entire motivation the whole way through the game is save my friends. Like you go to the island, all your friends get captured, and you're like, right, that's it. I'm becoming this like wilderness super soldier. I'm gonna save my friends, like risk my life, do all this, and then to go through all of that and be like, hey, I just met this lass this week, and I've decided I'm gonna go with her. Like, like it was just so like
that. Like, I still love that game, and I love the idea. Like, that's fine to have your motivation be save your friends the whole time, and then like at the end, it's like, because I think what they were trying to do was like, look at what all you've done to save your friends, though. Like, you're a part of the island now. You know, kind of thing. And I wish they would have made that a little bit more clear, because you're right, it is super jarring. Because when he says, like, when the voice actor says, I want to save my friends, he sounds very convincing that he has not strayed at all from that motivation. And, like, but I think that would have been, like, that's what's so interesting about that game, is that as you're going through, you are trying to save your friends, but you're becoming more and more like the island, and you're getting help from like evil people, and then so then it does make sense at the end. It's like, okay, well, have I become someone else now in the midst of trying to do something good, or am I still with my friends and this was just a crazy episode in our lives as frat boys? You know, kind of thing. Like, and so that's what I really liked.
We liberated an island. Still got all the photos.
But like, yeah, I did do both endings, and I'm like, oh, I'm so glad I went with my friends. The other ending's so stupid. I was so mad.
Yeah, and I feel like most games do that. I feel like most games, they just wait till that last moment to give you that choice. And like, sure, like, okay. Like,
well, again, I think it was done really well with Far Cry.
Yeah.
That was that, like I said, the choice went back to the story.
Yeah.
Of like, you know, it meshed well together, and it was telling a story or a message or whatever the game was doing. Like, it was deeper than just, you're surviving. You know, like, it all kind of meshed well together.
Mm-hmm.
And so that one, I think, was really good. I just wish they executed it better.
But they never marketed the game. Like, they weren't one of those games where it's like, oh, you have choice and your choices have an impact. Like, they just went, here's a story, and then it got to the end and they're like, here's your choice.
And you're like, what?
Yeah.
Wait, what choice?
And that's my preference. That's how I think most games should kind of do that. Like, if they have it, just whatever. Like, you do that as long as, like, you can do it decent. It doesn't have to be phenomenal. It doesn't have to be a main marketing thing. It doesn't have to be any of those things. You just make a good game with a good story, and like, you can just have, like, as long as you can convince the player that everything got to this point and this is where it deviates. Like, you did all these actions, but did you do these actions for the greater good and you're still gonna like be the good, or did all these actions corrupt you and like now you're gonna kind of go this way instead? Like, Far Cry 3, I'm fine with that. Like, Infamous 2, I'm fine with that. But like, if you advertise it has all this choice, and then like it just like, okay, it affected these dialogues, it affected like that, but like nothing else changed. It like,
yeah,
that's
seems like from a dev's point of view, it's always like, it'll be like key points, like where, yeah, it seems like you have choices everywhere, but really it only matters at this one conversation and what you choose, and then this event and what you choose, and then that affects this, you know, kind of thing.
Mhm.
And I'm just like, that's not how life works. It's all these little choices that lead you like this.
Yeah. And I admit that's hard to do in a game. Like
Oh,
if you
super
pull it
hard.
off, like, respect, like you nailed it. Which is why, like, I more often than believe it's easier to do those in main side, like, massive side quests that affect, like, it's much easier in open world games. Like, if you can piss off a town, a city of this baron, of that person, and, like, it makes life for you harder in that area of the game, like, that perfect, awesome. But, like, to have it affect the main storyline so drastically, that's hard. But the
Yeah.
thing is, like, you don't, like, I don't know if some companies feel like they need to, and I don't know why. Like, Last of Us 1 and 2, what choices do you have? Did you
I was
love the?
actually going to bring that up
Yeah.
because now with all these games having this choice, like even my indie game Wintermore Tactics Club has choice in it. And I don't know if it actually affects things, but it sure kind of feels like it's affecting things. And
Mhm.
I'm like, that's crazy that this little indie game and the dialogue, it's like a visual novel, if you will. And it's like the choices that I'm making like seems to, like, not drastically, but like affect little things in the story.
Yeah.
So like choice in games is very widespread, from indie to AAA to how much to how little. And so then when a game has no choice and yet you are the player, how does that affect the storytelling? And I think that's why a lot of people got upset with part 2 of Last of Us.
Yeah.
Because they were like, I wouldn't do this. And it's like, to me, I kept saying, that's the point though.
Yep.
Is that this isn't your story. It's not about you.
Mhm.
It's like, it's looking at this, you know, without going into spoilers, of course, because I know you guys have played it. But
You're playing a
that's
super
what made
interactive
it so
movie.
much more. What's that?
You're playing a super interactive movie.
Yeah, like it was insane. It was like, it was just, it really took you out of it, and it really forced you to like watch someone else's story unfold. And it was the act of like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe you're doing this, that like led to the message of the game. Like
Mhm.
it was great. I so enjoyed it.
Yeah. So that's my thing. Like, I don't know. I feel like it's become too prevalent for game companies to try to build choice into games, and it's like you don't need to, or at the very least, don't advertise it. Like, just put it in the game and let the players tell you, oh, I love that you did this, or nah, I didn't really hit it. But like, if you
Yeah.
promise and don't deliver, that's gonna bite you a lot more than if you said nothing and it ends up being fantastic.
Yeah, true.
So
I mean, so many of my favorite games are like basically like purely narrative. Like, it's
Yeah, me too.
like, even if you're like, it's an action game or whatever, like, it's not about making choices and you being in control of your character. It's you being told a story as you play a game.
yeah,
Mhm.
Which I think, like, if you make something purely that, it's better than giving me choices that ultimately mean nothing. Because, like, it pulls you out of it, I think. Whereas if it's just like you're like watching a character develop, or you're watching a relationship develop between two characters, or kind of just seeing that happen, even if you don't have a direct input to their interactions, I think
Yeah.
it comes off better. Like, it immerses you better into that.
I definitely know that when there's choice, I like metagame a whole lot more. Because I'm like, well, where is this choice going to lead me? And do I want that ending, or do I
Yeah.
want a different thing? You know, like.
yeah, I have that bad problem too. Of like, what do I want to do here? And like,
Yeah.
and sometimes I'm just I do opportunistic choices and I don't always think about it right away. Like, my favorite was in Assassin's Creed Odyssey. There's a point right in the beginning where you like, this is gonna be spoilers for like the first like third of the game, but like you catch up with your father, and like you have a choice to kill him or not. And I'm like, no, my character's pissed at the father, so I kill the father. And then like someone else like shows up and you can like run or not kill them. And my decision to kill them was based entirely off the option if I had just unlocked the Sparta kick and he's standing with his back to a cliff. And I was like, well, this decision's made. I have no idea what the ramifications, but yeet, and just like off the cliff he went and died. And I was like, well, I'll live with that consequence because that was just a perfect moment. So like sometimes I'm like, no, like, what's this gonna do? How does this? What ending is it gonna?
Gamer move. That's not something you would wait a minute, he's on a cliff.
Time.
I'll Sparta kick him.
You gave me the choice game. I just unlocked the ability, and I'm like, oh, I can't wait
my
to use
God.
that. And the game's like, here's a good moment. I'm like,
Okay.
oh,
Oh my gosh. That's
Yeah.
funny.
but otherwise I'm the same. Like, I'm like, where's this choice gonna get me? Like, do I want this ending? Like,
Yeah, I stress about those decisions way more than I do in real life.
mhm.
So one of the things I did with Detroit Become Human was I've played through the game once, and basically I was like, I'm gonna do a chaos run because before knowing any of the characters, I feel like if you want to do like multiple playthroughs and get all the different endings, I was like, surely it's easier for me to murder everyone first and balls everything up rather than metagaming it, getting super attached to everyone's story, loving the character stuff, and then I have to make a playthrough where I like, well, so and so's got to die. Like, so it's just like, right,
Oh my
first
God, I
playthrough,
cried.
terrible decision making. And I just killed like everyone. I think like 2 people survived by accident. I was
Oh
like,
my
chaos,
gosh.
chaos run.
Yeah,
I
no,
really want to play Heavy Rain. I need to do Heavy Rain because it's the same.
Heavy Rain is really
devs.
good as well.
yeah, I've never played Heavy Rain. It's one of the games that's
Oh.
on my list of everyone's like, you gotta play it. I'm like, I know I need to, and it's just always sat on my list. It just never has made it to the top. It's just always in that bucket of I must play this game at some point, and then like it just
To be
sits there.
honest, like mechanically and choices wise, Detroit Become Human is better like in every way.
Mhm.
But I think I liked the story more for Heavy Rain. It was just like so tense, and there's like a gaming moment in there that like
Yeah.
I will never forget. And it's because you have choice and because you are the character that it makes it so impactful and will always sit with me.
Okay.
Where like there's not really a moment like that in Detroit Become Human that was the same.
Okay.
But yeah, no, but where Detroit has like thousands of endings, that like where if you watch literally the cut of just every ending, it's like 3 hours long for one character. You have like 9 endings for Detroit.
Okay.
I mean, sorry, for Heavy Rain.
Yeah. So that's interesting. So I like Detroit's also on that list of it's in that bucket of games I want to play. So I might make it to one or both at some point. It's just that bucket always grows.
I highly recommend it. I really enjoyed
Yeah.
both of them, even though they have very controversial, like, well, especially Detroit has very controversial, like, themes.
Yeah.
So,
But
take that with you, Will.
But Blindside, I did a similar mindset into the Dishonored games. Like you start out from the beginning, I'm gonna murder everyone, or I'm gonna murder no one. And like I find like in certain games like that, if I know like the like good evil, if I know kind of something like that exists, it's much easier for me to immediately decide I'm just gonna do this thing. But like when you have like these nebulous dialogue options, I'm like I don't know, what it's gonna. And that was a problem. I think was it one of the Mass Effects had that problem? Where
Oh,
like
the Paragon Renegade thing.
well, yeah, it had that, but I meant like the dialogue options where like it would give you like this like 2-word or 3-word thing, and then,
Yeah.
then that wasn't what your character said. It was almost like
That
when you
wasn't your
misinterpret the
problem with,
emotions behind a text. You read those words like, oh, that seems like the friendly option, and then you do it, and then Shepard like decks them, kicks a kid off a cliff, and you're like, that was not what I thought that text was gonna do. And like it was like these weird like choice options. Like games do that on occasion as well. Like the text of your choice isn't the text of the character, and I'm like, why was that the thing?
Well, I found that really annoying with Fallout 4. Fallout 3, it was like, here's what you're going to say, and if it was to do with a skill, it would have that in as well. And then, so that you could be like, oh, I know generally what's going to happen. And then Fallout 4 was like, sarcasm, and which could be anything.
Yeah.
Like, you could just be like, oh, sarcasm, thinking they're going to do a playful little, like, oh, well, and actually they're just like, oh, well, you're really amazing, aren't you? And then they just insult people to their face. But it was like on that wheel, and it was like, here's one word, like,
Yeah,
which one word thing you want to hope the response is good, like.
Yeah, maybe that's what I was thinking of, and not one of the Mass Effects. But more than one game has done it. But I know there's a major release game that had done it not terribly long ago, and it was just like I don't know what I'm choosing. Like I'm just like hoping I'm not an asshole or being a dick in this choice, and like oh no, apparently I was. Or you want to be, and you're like, well, that came across really kind and sweet and like cool, but like I really hate this character. I wanted to like.
I
Yeah, Mass
remember.
Effect-
Oh, go ahead.
Mass Effect
Oh,
1
good.
had a real problem with because when they had the Paragon Renegade system, which is basically their version of like good or evil, but the way the game functioned was the more you chose that option, like the further into that option, like your character became. And I
Mhm.
think it's because they were trying to steer you to go one way or the other. But there was like no nuance to it. So if you wanted to play like a renegade thing, you could be like, well, I really hate the council, so I'm going to be like a dick to the council. And then it was just every single person you met, you had to be like an out and out full on bastard. Because if you weren't, you get to the end of the game and it's like you can't make the renegade decision because you have too many Paragon points. Because it's like, oh yeah, but like you were trying to be anti-council and there was that one kid you didn't slap him on your way past. So unfortunately, you can't make the ultimate renegade decision against the council because you didn't go around like kicking puppies.
Yeah.
And it was just like you've railroaded like way too hard.
There, real quick, then I'll let you take over, Plax. I know you wanted to say something, but there was a scene in Mass Effect. So I played the first one, and my friend and I was playing. I think he had an Xbox, so we both had our own save files and were playing it. And I was doing the good, and he was doing the evil. A lot of times we'd be hanging out and watching the other play and stuff like that. So it was interesting to see our choices. But yeah, no, one of my favorite moments that really honed in on that is the point where you go to a planet where like people had been like secluded for like ever. They crash landed, all their things. So you show up, and like you're trying to decide like which side you want to help, and like you're talking to this lady, and like Shepard looks off to the side and sees someone in a bush pull up a gun, and then Shepard looks back in their face, and then you have the trigger for the Paragon option. So, and it gives you like a 10 seconds. So if you don't hit it, there's 10 seconds of Paragon just staring this lady just dead eye in the face. The 10 seconds go by, and then she's shot in the head and killed. And it's like, that was just straight up, like, just asshole evil. Like, there was nothing, and it's just this, like I said, awkward moment. Oh, a gunman. Stare her in the eye for 10 seconds.
Oh my.
Yeah, no, like you said, it's basically like, you didn't slap a child in the face, you're too good. Like, what? Like,
Yeah.
oh.
That's weird. I was gonna change subjects to
Yeah.
Life is Strange.
Okay.
Because going back to like your dialogue options, you know, like not like lining up. Because I remember so many times like I would pick an option, but your option plays out like 2 minutes, you know, kind of thing of like conversation or whatever your action is. And so then it'll like lead to, you know, you say this and then it leads to this and you're just like, wow, did that lead there? Where did our conversation go? And then you rewind and you're like, okay, well maybe this other option, I don't think that would make a lot of sense, but let's go ahead and see where that goes. But that also leads somewhere where you don't want to go, and then you go to the third option and it does the same thing, and you're like constantly choosing between like what's the less evil thing to do. And like you're like, well, I don't really like any of these consequences, but I guess I feel the most with this one. And
So-
like that game was so different because there was choice,
Yeah.
but you could always rewind. Well, most of the time.
Yeah, I never played that game, but I watched a YouTuber like their series of playing that game. And I think this came up in a different podcast. My favorite moment is, again, spoilers, is right after the one girl like jumps off.
Yes. Oh
So
my God.
like right after that moment, he gets like, you're back in the room, and he's just like, he's going through like the basic options. He's like, I gotta water this plant. I don't want anyone else to die. Like, if anything, I can keep this plant. And then he goes to water the plant, and the plant is dead because he's overwatered it. And he's like, no. He's like, this is the one thing. Like, it was just like right after that moment. Like every time you're in a room, if you water the plant, it dies because you overwatered it. But it
Yeah,
occurs
that's what happened
right
on my
after
playthrough.
that scene, and he's just like, no, I can't. Everything is just. I was like,
Dude,
oh.
that was talk about like a pinnacle moment in a game. Like that will sit with me. I was so distraught
Yeah.
that like, cause I was talking to her, and it's like and then that's one of the times you can't rewind.
Yep.
And you're just like, fuck. And then she's like, you don't know me, and I'm like, sure I know you. You know, it's fine. Like we're buddies. And then it's like it leads up, and you have to like choose like what Bible verse that will like resonate with her.
Yeah.
And you're supposed to remember of like the one Bible verse that's in her room, and I have a shit memory, so I was like, I think it's this one. it was not that one. And I was like, oh my god! I couldn't believe it when, oh my god, I was so mad.
But
I
see,
was
there's
so
a great
distraught.
moment of choice impacting.
Yeah.
Like, in the grand scheme of things, it
I
doesn't.
felt like I murdered someone that I didn't want to murder.
Like, in the grand scheme of things, though, it doesn't affect the main plot. But it's still
No.
a very impactful moment for the player.
Well, and
Like-
it hangs like on her the whole time.
Yeah.
In a aspect where if you do save her, I feel like it doesn't have nearly as much effect because she still like has that decision weigh on her, and I'm like, yeah, but you saved her.
Mhm.
You know, kind of thing. So it doesn't really like. I think the story makes a whole lot more sense, which is terrible. Like if you fail that mission.
Yeah.
Almost.
But
It was crazy. Oh, I was so mad.
you heard it here. Platt encourages letting characters die for a better story.
They did it that way. They wrote it that way. Dream sequence later where there's flowers at her door, and that still happens if you save her.
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense. Because she's like, what? No, I saved you. And I'm like, that just doesn't resonate as much as seeing it and you didn't save her. Because
Yeah.
you're just like, well, thanks for the reminder, game. It's not like I think about it every time I make a decision.
I hope this doesn't kill anyone. I hope this
I
doesn't
do.
kill.
It was terrible. There were like guns in that game. Dude, Chloe's so stupid. I hated her the whole game. She was dumb.
I don't play a lot of like the kind of like Telltale or like decision games. I did play all of the Dark
Yeah.
Anthology games because they were like multiplayer.
Okay.
Yeah.
But like the first one of them, like there's a decision you make like right at the start, and there was like seemingly no impact. So I was like, oh sweet, this is fine.
Yeah.
And I did a playthrough with Terry, and he was like, right, we're gonna make sure no one dies or whatever.
Yeah.
And we got like quite far through. Like we had like there was one hiccup where I did get someone killed, and he was like, "Oh, but it's not so bad." And we got to the end of the game, and one thing I'd done at the start that seemed completely innocuous, someone just kind of went, "Oh, remember that thing at the start?" And that like that was the whole thing, and I was just like, "What?"
So which one's that one? Because it's Until Dawn, something, and then Little Hope. Man
So
of Medan.
Until Dawn isn't like one of the Dark Pictures. It was the same devs though. So it was
It counts.
Man of Medan was the first
Yeah,
one,
Man of Medan is the second one. Or the first one, if you will.
and then
Oh, I
can't
play
remember
them
what the second
every
was.
October because they always release during Halloween. And
Yeah.
so Michael and I usually have friends over and we play whichever one comes out and we get drunk and we usually end up just trashing the game because the game is terrible if you play it single player.
Yeah,
It is
they are.
not meant to be single player. I don't think they should even release it as a single player. Like, force people to do multiplayer online or, like, with their friends.
I don't even know what games we're talking about.
Oh, it's
So these
called
are
Man of
the
Medan.
dark- Yeah, it's Dark
That's the
Pictures
one.
Anthology, and it's Man of Medan and Little Hope,
And Little Hope just
Um,
came out this last October.
which I really
But
enjoyed.
Until
Little Hope.
Dawn was the first one by the same company.
Okay.
Yeah, so that Until Dawn was really weird. I played it on one of my birthday streams like years ago, and I had
Yeah.
some friends over and we all like sat on the sofa and like
Yeah.
we were like passing the controller around, and I was just like, it was like a really good game at the same time as like I just wasn't enjoying it, and I have
Oh,
no
Until
idea.
Dawn is like one of my favorite games.
I was just going through it, being like, it's almost like I think I just felt like I saw everything coming.
Yeah.
And I don't really do horror, so my self-defense
no.
mechanism with horror games is just like assume that there's never any danger of anything. Like I have to pull myself out of immersion,
Yeah.
which I then get so like disassociated from the game that I'll be like getting chased by like some like murderer with a shotgun or something. I'm just like idiot, and then I just like run along. But if I don't do that, then I just shit my pants constantly. So I have to, and it does take my enjoyment away from horror games a little
Yeah.
bit.
Yeah, and all of them have choice. So the whole purpose of these games is you play multiple people. It's always an ensemble, like 5 to 7 people, and you get the very stereotypical adjectives, so that way you know who the character is, like right off the bat. And then every single one of them, you can either like kill everybody or save everybody, like within this night of horror.
Okay.
So that's like the premise of all of them, really. Until Dawn is like, they can't get help until dawn, so you have to just survive until
Oh, I
dawn.
see what you did there.
Oh, it's a good one. It's clever. And then Man of Medan, they're like on some like ship, so they're kind of stranded, and they just have to survive until they get help. And then Little Hope is they're like stranded on this town, and they cannot get out of this town. And there's mysterious stuff afoot.
I love, cause it's really early in Little Hope where like you're going along like this mist road and everyone's like,
Yeah.
no, I'm not going to the spooky town, we're going the other way, and you go the other way and then you just come out of the mist again, like
Yeah.
facing everyone. And it does such a good thing of like setting the stage of like you're going nowhere, like you're
Yeah.
having this experience, this is what's happening, no choices.
I'm
I
really
really
glad they
liked
did
it.
that like a few times, because if that was me, I'd be like, I'm not going in the town. So I would go into the mist like 8 times. Yeah,
Stubborn
so
plot.
that's the premise. And then they always have like stereotypical horror, and that's where I think Until Dawn does the best. Is like they have this stereotypical horror, but they're at the same time like parroting horror
Okay.
and like making fun of it, where the other two are like legitimately trying to be horror without like the comedy or the parody. And so then you just poke holes in all of their plots, and you're like, this doesn't make any fucking sense.
Yeah, I think it's hard for a game to like do horror. Sorry, I feel like I was about to sneeze. Depending on the type of game, I feel like it's hard for a game to do horror and keep up that suspense for too long, because eventually I feel like the players just get numb to it.
They're short games.
Okay, so
You
it
can finish it in a night. We always finish the game like on Halloween.
yeah, because like there's a lot of games like where eventually like so Resident Evil the remake and stuff like that with what's his name who like follows you through the mansion, like the first couple times you're like oh god, eventually you're just like yeah, like it wears thin like.
Especially when you can't figure out like a puzzle or where to go, that's when the horror just goes, this is stupid.
Yeah.
Because you're like where do I go? I don't know, catch me, kill me, I don't know where to go.
Yeah.
Like
Well, I think it's the
just
same
get
as,
me progressing.
games that like try to like overtly do comedy. Like I think comedy and horror both share a lot of like timing is massive amount of like it's very imperative to like your theme landing. And there's a game called Bulletstorm that's like a pure comedy, like it's machismo character, like female commander character, like, and it's them kind of bouncing off each other, and it's intended to be a comedy game like through and through.
Yeah.
But you can be like, if you're walking through a set piece, obviously like the way they're talking is to do with your position. But like if you get distracted, if you're like, oh, I think I saw something over here, you can be like halfway through a joke setup, wander off where they say nothing, and then you go back and it's like punchline. And you're like, what? And like I think horror gets the same thing where you're saying like, if you go into a puzzle and you get stuck, and you're just like it's real tense, and then you're like, how do you get this bit to fit in the? And it takes you out of it, and then the pacing's off, and the minute the pacing's off, like it's gone, like it's done.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think in those situations the puzzle needs to be relatively simple, and they need to not pause the threat. So you're not actually like, almost like what's the show with like the Iron Monkeys and like the green where they had like assemble something at the end? Oh, it's like an old Nickelodeon show.
Oh, Jungle. What was it? It's not Jungle Run. It's something like that, though, isn't it?
But like you had like the green iguanas and the silver monkeys, and
Is this like a Kids Survivor or something?
it was just like a one-off. Every episode was like a one-off with like either like siblings or friends like trying to do these puzzles. But at the very end, they had to go through this like maze and collect these like 3 pieces of like this iron like monkey and like just assemble it. And it's not a complicated thing. There's feet, there's a stomach, there's a head.
Yeah.
And like it's actually a simple thing, but like someone's coming for them, they have a timer. So what's a simple task? I mean, also these kids have been awake probably for like 15 hours filming and doped up like on pizza and whatever. But like it's such a simple task that they just like fail so often. Like they put the head on first and the stomach, like that's not right, and then they lose. And like I feel like a horror games need to do that. They need to give you like a seemingly obvious puzzle, but you're so nerve-wracked by it, like this counter, this person, that you fail it, and you're not annoyed at the puzzle. You're like, oh, like it was so easy. I just got like I panicked. Like you kind of need to do it in that aspect, where like as
Yeah,
opposed to
and
like
that
Resident Evil
works.
games, where like a lot of times they just pause everything, and then you're like, well, I got this super like weird, complicated. Like, do you know the fifth note in Beethoven's orchestra? You don't? Can you look it up? Because I'm standing at a piano and I think I need to hit that, and it like.
I love how disturbingly accurate that is as a Resi puzzle. Just something real abstract. Yeah. No. And then you just do it. It's like okay.
And like so, like yeah, those moments, yeah, they really pull you out of the horror, and you're like, I don't like what.
Yeah.
So.
That's something I also really like about specifically Until Dawn, although they do try to do it in the other two, where it's like they force you to like stay still, or they force you to like focus.
Mm-hmm.
And if you mess up, then you could like get killed or something bad could happen. So in Until Dawn, because of the PlayStation Motion, you literally had to stay still, like in real life.
So
And it doesn't give you a chance to put the controller down because with one of them it was
yeah,
come
because
up and I
it'll
was
just
like,
come up and you're like, fuck.
yeah, so it like came up and I was like, oh, fuck. And I like quickly tried to put it down, and it's like it shows like a line around the
And
shape,
you're like
and
so
mine just
tense,
went.
You can see it shaking on the screen, and you're like, I'm not moving, man. I'm not moving.
Oh, that sounds good. I'll have
But
to try
in the
that.
other two, they have like a heartbeat instead, so you have to. It's like a quick time event where you have to press X, and
Okay.
I don't like that nearly
The
as
Man of
much.
Medan one is so like, so it's you have to stay calm, and it's a heartbeat comes
Yeah.
up. You have to go press it in the timing. But like, if you fail it, I think there's one of them where I failed it. I just pressed like the wrong button, or I pressed it in like out of time, and they
Yeah.
basically they panic and they just die. Like it's just their heart explodes, and they, so they're like sat there trying to be like really like, oh, you just stay
Yeah,
calm,
just,
it's gonna be
like,
fine.
Be calm.
And I messed up their heartbeat, and they just kind of went, and then they just died. And I was like, well, that seems like a bit
harsh.
over the top.
There was
No, I
a.
like it.
In Little
Do
Hope,
it.
I think it's breathing. You're supposed to be breathing.
Yeah,
and, like,
it's
like
like
L-
remaining calm.
and it's like there's one side where you have to press one button, and the other side where you have to press the other button. It's just like, you bastards. Why would
But
you
I
make this
would
more
so much
complicated?
rather. I love the sense of you have to keep still, because that also made it like so much more tense, and it had to do with the story as well, because like the monsters will see you if you move, so like it like totally made sense.
You know, I like that. I like that integration as opposed to just QuickTime. Like,
Yeah,
like,
especially when the other parts of the game is QuickTime, like that was something different.
Like, because I had the problem, and I feel like a lot of people do. Like, I forget where buttons are because am I playing PlayStation, Xbox, I'm playing Nintendo? Like, there's no consistency. Yeah, and I'm like, like it throws me off all the time. But Blindside, in regard to what you were saying, like you fail once, you just have a heart attack and die. There's a game called Masters of Orion, like 1, 2, and 3, and they're basically like the Civ games but space, and you like could like be like, all right, go to this star and go investigate, and the game's like, all right, that's gonna take 4 years or whatever. But the problem was the map is 3-dimensional, so you can only look at it 2-dimensional. So if you rotate it, like you might go, oh, point A, point B, that's cool. But then you rotate on the other axis, and it's actually point A, point B is like way down here, and you're like, oh, I thought it was like 4 feet apart, but no, it's like way down this way. So if you misclick, it's gonna like, oh yeah, your ship's gonna take 6,000 years with this basic engine to get there. And the game didn't have like a turnaround button. You couldn't call back a ship you sent, but you could detonate the ship.
We made a mistake. We weren't looking at the other axis. Stop.
No, you could detonate the ship, but you'd lose like the resources. So it was just like this weird integration, and like my friend made a joke about it, and he's like, he imagined like because like the space signals like distance, like everything was like almost like Morse code, and it's like, okay, 1 beep detonate, 2 beep turn around, and there's just a guy waiting, and that first beep comes in, and he's just on it, like no chance.
That reminds me of like this show where they're like in space and it's like supposed to be a cruise, and then because they're so far away, they're like kind of stranded or whatever, but they keep talking to Earth, but because they're so far away, there's like a 30 or 40 second delay in their messages.
Yeah.
So they'll like say like, hey, just so you know, there's a problem with the ship. but the ship won't get it until like it's like Twitch chat, but like
Yeah.
way worse, And so it's so funny because they're like, "What? There's a problem with the ship. What is it?" And like you just see the other side, and they're like, "Do you think they're getting the message yet? Are they getting it? Okay. Oh yeah, I hear them. Yeah. Okay. So the problem with the ship is like." And that's what that reminds me when it's like,
Yeah.
turn around, but they don't get the message for like 3 years.
Yeah, I've been that person, and I've both in chat and doing the stream. Where it's like you're playing a game, it's like, oh, it's in that door you just passed, and like I look at chat, I'm like, oh god, how long ago is that? I've passed so many doors. Like,
You're gonna need to be a little more specific.
I'm like, I don't. Did it just? Is it this door? Was it in that other building I was in 2 seconds ago? Like, ah, crap. Like,
I just anything Twitch chat. If you're not giving landmarks to your commands, like oh you were just stood by and then go left, and you're like that could have been 45 seconds ago. I have no idea what
my
your
God.
delay is.
It's so funny.
or like
Yeah.
you'll ramble on like 6 different sentences, and like you've changed topics, and someone goes like, all of a sudden, like, I've done that. And you're like, wait, you've done what? I've said a lot of
Which one?
things. Like, I talked about shaving a cat, and I've talked about like getting the mail today. Which one did you do? Like,
Honestly, either way, I'm not sure if I want to know.
yeah, basically. Oh man.
That's good. So I think.
Rude.
Oh.
So I've now learned something that I've missed in setting up the unique podcast set of scenes is I forgot to add alerts. And Sage, thank you for those 100 bits. And no, you cannot vote wolves off the island.
But yeah, no, to go back to like our main discussion of
Yeah.
choice in games, it definitely just comes down to how they utilize it. And I think you're right about it being a selling point. I don't think it's a good selling point for
Yeah.
a game. Like, it's either in your story or it's not, and have it relate to.
Yep.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
I like choice.
Yeah, I don't mind choice, but like, it's just it's that saying like under promise over deliver. Like, don't
Yeah.
brag about the choice in your game, because if it's not done how the players want, they're gonna hate it. But if you never mention choice and then they're like, ooh, this game has some choices in it, like, and I think that's what happened. I think certain games were offering choices, and the players would talk about, ooh, I have these choices. Ooh, there's this really good choice. Then game developers was like, oh, we gotta add choice. We gotta tell them we put this choice in. And it's like, no. They were surprised and happy with how it executed. And games where they didn't like it, they just didn't mention it because whatever. Like, I played the game, I liked the game, like, so.
I think you get the same thing where you'll see games where, like The Witcher, you'll see people saying like, "Oh, the incredible thing with The Witcher is it has such a massive world, and like it's so broad, and to get from one end of the world to the other takes X many hours, whatever." And then you get games like Rage, where they went, "Oh, that's fine, yeah, we'll put a massive map in." It's like it's all empty desert. Like this is not what any of us wanted. And they went, "But you like big maps."
Yeah.
And they were like. Like I think it's the same with like choice thing. Like you guys said you liked choice, then we put choice in the game. Now you're all mad. It's like yeah, you put shit
Oh my
choices
God.
in. Well done.
That reminds me of Cyberpunk's map. Oh my God, I don't like it. They're like, you like open world, right? With lots of things to do. Here are all the objectives in the world, and I'm just like, oh God. Please.
Yeah. Like I always like I get mad at games when they only allow me to tag like one quest line at a time. And then I feel like it's like, oh, we only allow you to tag one quest line. So if you happen to be near another quest line and you didn't have it tagged, you just missed it and got to go back to the other side of the city. Or they do like this, and like Assassin's Creed Odyssey did the same thing. Where it's like, oh no, we just show you everything all the time, and you're just overwhelmed now. And I'm like,
Yeah.
Just,
That's one thing that I absolutely adored from Ghost of Tsushima is their map and their like things that you had to do was just like so beautifully tranquil.
Yeah.
Like I loved every time I went to the map and it's like this ink, on a white parchment, and I
Yeah.
was just like, this is nice. Like I've been playing Cyberpunk, and then I watched someone play Ghost of Tsushima, and they went to the map, and I was like, oh, that is so much cleaner. I
Yeah.
forgot that maps can be beautiful.
yeah, like you can have a densely packed world, but you need to give me more customization over the map what it shows. Like
Yeah.
mini map, like don't have the mini map. Like give me control, like what it sees. Like I don't want to like look at the mini map. I'm like, there's like 12 little symbols on this mini map, and I don't remember what those two meant, and I don't. I don't know what's happening. I'm
And
like,
then you can't find the thing you're actually looking for, which is frustrating.
yeah. Like, and that's hard. That's a balancing act. Like, just trying to figure out the right amount.
Yeah, definitely.
So like, I was gonna mention something with map, and now my brain just went, nope, deleted, gone.
That, oh my gosh, that's something I say to myself all the time.
Right.
Like, if I want to like clean something for the laundry, I'll be like, yeah, delete that. But I really like mean clean, or like, or like if I want to like just put dishes away, I'm like, yeah, I want this. But I really mean like put it away. I think that to myself like all the time.
Is this when we find out that Platt's actually an android? Because
Yep.
in the history of sci-fi, that doesn't go well for you.
Or does it do? I mean, it's only a matter of time before AI rise up and so.
Maybe.
I always love like the memes of like the androids and like all these movies. Oh, the androids are gonna rise up. Androids are gonna rise up. Androids are gonna rise up. Me in the real world, I threw a Cheeto on the ground because I think my Roomba's hungry. like, like it's like these weird things of like these movies trying to make us like fear the machines. And in the real world, like I've named my Roomba Steve. I like Steve. like,
They put googly eyes on him. Like,
I've seen pictures of that. It's so funny.
yeah.
and then on the far side of that, you've got what are those? You know the ones where they built them to be like stable and they like real time calculate steps and then they just kick the shit out of them. Like they're like hitting them with hockey sticks and.
I hate those videos. I'm like, do you want the robots to like kill you first?
Yep.
That's how that happens.
I love the ones that do the voiceover. And it's like, all right, I'm just gonna open this door. Steve, get off the door. No, I'm trying to open the door. Leave me alone.
What the fuck, Steve?
Oh, I love those.
Have you seen the one where it's
They're
like
really
they've programmed him to pick up a box, but they keep hitting the box out of his hands with a hockey stick? Of all things. Like,
Well, yeah,
they
they
just got a hockey stick. Yeah.
Don't do it.
Oh man.
It's bad.
Oh, yeah, no, Cyberpunk, that map, it's just so overwhelming. And like I feel like,
Yeah.
and this is another thing that I feel like it's hard for games to balance is the world that you exist in. Like there's this, and like I couldn't do it. Like don't get me wrong, like it's one of the things like I'm the couch critic. Like no, like but like the difference between a world that feels like diverse, populated, and live, and a one that just feels like a shell. And like it's this weird balance, like so like I almost feel like sometimes the cyberpunk world it's too full of things, and like they're like, oh yeah, no, because it's a bustling city and there's like these trash piles and all these things. And I'm like, I get that, but like it's just so sensory overload. It just feels like too much. But like at some point when you remove stuff, it just feels like it's just like the shell like they placed there. Like did any of you ever play the Marvel game that's come out, most recent Marvel Alliance? Like all of it's like it had different like locations, but all of them just felt like they just took like, oh, this will be the city, this will be that, and it just felt like this soulless environment. And I think that was a big detractor for the game is everything just felt like these large soulless like cubes of area. And like Cyberpunk, sometimes I feel like it went too far in the other game. They added so much to make it feel like real and lived in that it's just like all right, calm down. Like
I do think that's on purpose though, because it's supposed to be like heightened.
yeah.
There's lots of people. There's a lot of things going on. We have technology of the wazoo, you know. So that doesn't bother me. In fact, that's like my favorite part about Cyberpunk.
Like I like the aesthetic, but like for me, it's just like that. It's at 11. Like I wanted down one,
no, I would
bring it down to
agree.
10. Like
Yeah,
like,
no, I would agree it is very high, but I think that is on purpose.
yeah. Oh no, it's definitely deliberate. It's
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
and one again, I'm barely into the game, but one thing I'd like to point out is
Do
I feel like if this game was called Assassin's Creed and not Cyberpunk, no one would have made a single comment about the glitches. Everyone, I think, just would have been like, yeah, this is an Ubisoft Assassin's Creed release. It just does these things. You play the game, you like it. But
That's
because
not a very compliment though. That
But-
means we just don't like any of the Assassin's
no, that's the
Creed
thing though. Like the glitches are so like known to exist when they release that you just know they're gonna be there and you play it. Like I just played Valhalla. I just beat it. I loved it. I have a couple missions that I just flat out can't complete because it just glitched on me. Like my favorite one.
That is unacceptable. Game developers
Yeah,
should not
that
do
is
that.
absolutely unacceptable.
But like my favorite one is there's this like the Skald, like a Viking bard, and he's like, I got to be big and brave. I need you to help me kill a monster so I can like go back and be like, I killed this monster. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna help you kill that monster. And like I had recently accidentally lured a polar bear a bit close to that. There are wolves over there and a polar bear over there, and me going, I'm gonna really help you sell this. We're gonna murder that polar bear. So I bring the polar bear over, and the polar bear one shot kills the Skald, and I was like, I was not expecting that. I just kind of assumed you'd have unlimited health right here. So I finished killing the polar bear, and now there's just this dead bard on the ground. And like no matter what I do, I come like I've this is like the first like hour of the game. At hour like 70, I've come back and there's still just the dead body on the ground. I'm like, I guess I just can't complete this mission. Like and I have other missions that if I attempt to complete it, the game freezes, so I need to load in. So like I just have these things, and like, but like in the world of Assassin's Creed, like if you've played enough of them, you just go, oh yeah, no, Assassin's Creed just does these things in all of their games.
That's not okay.
But it's so ingrained with those games, like no one says
It
anything.
shouldn't be ingrained. They should finish their fucking game. That's their whole job.
I get that, but that's the thing that amuses me. Within like the people who play these games, it's just become a thing that you just accept it. But like there's such this standard for Cyberpunk that I don't feel like their glitches are any worse or more common. But like
Yeah.
it's just like, oh no, this is like the worst, most unacceptable. It's like you've clearly never played a lot of Assassin's Creed games because you'd be like, oh no, it's not that bad. Like this is standard.
Yeah, for sure. Honestly, if all of the glitches were only like aesthetic and it was just kind of funny because at one point the character is sitting and then standing and then sitting and then standing within one sentence, like
Yeah.
kind of like funny. It's the game breaking where it crashes. It's the
Yes.
game breaking where trophies don't pop. It's the game breaking where quest lines all of a sudden you can't complete them because not because you accidentally killed them, but because the person's not showing up. Like those are the things that are really frustrating,
Mhm.
and then that's why people are upset. Because that is just like not okay.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't had those yet, so that hasn't impacted me. But again, I keep admitting, I'm like, I got through Act 1. I've reached
Yeah.
the Fallout New Vegas part of the game.
Yeah.
Like, that's where I am. Like,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, all the aesthetic stuff it like takes you out of the story, but I think people give a lot more leeway when there are open world games and there's these types of glitches because open world games, especially on this scale, are very hard to code,
Yeah.
and your performance of your system is gonna like so that makes sense. Like I think people give a lot of leeway on that kind of thing. Like, wasn't it like Skyrim where a goat like went up a ladder? Like that's really funny,
Yeah.
kind of thing, and it's not gonna like ruin your playthrough. In fact, it probably enhances it, honestly. But it's the other things that are just like that's not acceptable to allow a quest line like for your example. If you accidentally killed the person, it should end that quest line and be like you failed.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be like you can still continue this, kind of thing, because then that's not a finished product of a game.
Agreed. And I use that example because it's my favorite, but it still shows up as a quest I can complete. And I have other ones that if I start them, it just, the game locks me in it and I need to restart from before I started that. And they're just, I guess I can't ever go do that quest.
Yeah.
Like, so for me, it would be impossible for me to 100% the game if I wanted to because some quests are just broken.
Oh, that pisses. As like a platinum hunter, that pisses me off.
Yeah.
Like, dear lord, that's not. You're not done with the game. You need to complete it. And that's where I get upset because like people are like, oh, the devs, blah 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 blah. But obviously, it's like the project manager or the marketing team or whatever, whoever's setting these deadlines. That obviously they aren't there yet is the issue.
And on a personal note and related to this, I really feel like the Assassin's Creed games need to drop the Assassin's Creed from their titles. You can like abbreviate just to like AC if you want to like call back to your roots of the series. But like I was a Viking. I was not an assassin.
You didn't assassinate
You
anybody?
can assassinate people, and I do occasionally assassinate people. But you also show up in a town, blow a horn, raid the town, and I'm running in with like a battle axe and a greatsword and just like cleaving left and right and like
Not very sneaky.
No, and like I said, there are assassin elements, but like no, it's AC Valhalla, not Assassin's Creed Valhalla. And like to me, that's a difference.
Yeah.
Like It's like when
For sure.
Domino's Pizza dropped pizza from their official tagline. They're now just called Domino's. You still get pizza there primarily. They have a bunch of other stuff. Like, yeah, you can still
Yeah.
assassinate people, but you're AC Valhalla, not Assassin's Creed. Like I said, that's just a weird, nuanced pet peeve of mine.
No, I get you. I get you.
So, all right, we've been going for over an hour and a half. Any closing remarks from anyone before we head on out?
Persona 5 Royal is a great game. Everyone should play it.
How many times should they play it? Which version should they play?
Play Royal because
Okay.
it's got everything from Persona 5 and like a lot of quality of life changes, and you would need to play it through like 3 times. But it's worth. Yeah, apparently you can play it in one run if you wanted to go for it. Play it. It's only about
there
a
you go.
120-hour game.
I was about to say, is this a 100+ hour game? You're like, play it 3 times. No.
I
Yeah,
was
scoot
like
for it.
300 hours.
You
Easy, it's
got,
fine.
you got that to spare, right? Just
It's lockdown. Where else are you gonna go?
If I
Yeah,
like the
so-
game, I will. I think I have like 300 plus hours in Stardew going for that plat.
what do you need to do for the platinum one? Just like unlock everything, or like is it like?
Yeah, so you have to literally do like everything. Cook
Okay.
every recipe, plant everything,
It's
sell
like
every
ship
item.
every crop like 30 times or something. It's crazy.
Yeah, depending on the crop, you need to ship it that many times, but really that's no biggie.
Alright.
The problem is you have to win the arcade game in the bar. and
Okay.
it's a really hard
Oh.
game.
Yeah, that's.
I
not-
haven't beaten it yet, and there's a trophy to beat it in general, and then there's a trophy to beat it without dying once.
I think one time I played like 4 hours of that game and beat it, but like it was like
Wow.
4 hours of like trying.
I'm Wolves. I'm amazing at top-down games.
No, I don't think it's a brag to say I beat it once in 4 hours of trying. Like, I don't.
I haven't beat it at all. I've tried like 100 hours. No, that's exaggerating. I think 20 to 25 hours I've tried to play. I've played only the arcade, and I can't beat it.
Oh, wow.
I think I've gotten to the third world 5 times.
Yeah.
I'm just terrible at those types of games.
I don't remember, but I think there's like one of the perks is like sounds good, but is not actually good to get right away. Like I don't remember. Like you can like do like bullet speed and bullet spread and like movement and like
Oh, yeah.
I think at one point I switched up which ones I prioritized and I suddenly did a lot better and I don't remember what I did. Because I think it was like I was like, oh, I want to get like bullet speed and bullet spread first or something like that, and I was like, no, that's like after like forever trying, I was like, let me try getting this one first, and all of a sudden I was like, wait, but I don't remember
like
what it
moving
was.
faster.
Yeah, like I
Because
think
it's moving faster, your bullets do more damage, or you fire more bullets like per second.
yeah. And I don't remember what I prioritized, and I don't remember what I switched. But I know at one point I was like, let me focus on this first. I think I switched to like, let me get movement first, and then do like damage or something. Like
Yeah.
I don't remember, but yeah, there you go. That's your message of the day. Stardew Valley, it's hard.
It's a 10 out of 10 platinum.
It's a big boy game for big boys. No baby games here.
Yeah, you think it's all chill? Fucking hell, man.
Just like fade into like platinum, Sarah. I've seen some shit, man.
I've seen some shit, man. Oh, it makes me so mad.
But
we'll get there.
all right. Well, everyone, thank you for joining us in chat. Thank you for joining me in the podcast as well. But yeah, heading out. I'm Grey Wolves Gaming. Pleasure to meet you. We have the always amazing Platinum Trophy Wife. Platinum, say hi. Where can they find you?
Hi. Platinum Trophy Wife, Twitch. I'll just do that one for now.
Fair enough. Blindside, where can they find you?
You can find me on Twitter at blindside_UK, and you can find me on Twitch at blindsideuk.
Awesome. Again, thank you for joining, everyone. I do have like an outro scene, but my music wasn't working earlier, so I'm just gonna flat out end this cold. Love you all. Bye.
Bye.